One of my friends told me I should start video blogging. He thought my ideas were interesting. That's flattering. It seems like a lot of work, though. But then as I was out walking today, I thought about how I could talk about why I support Tulsi Gabbard. Even if you don't support Tulsi Gabbard, I think you have to be appalled at the idea that the three leading candidates for president are all over 70. Two are showing apparent signs of dementia, and one recently had a heart attack. I mean, this is not okay. And then this whole business of all these candidates taking falls right before and after Super Tuesday and endorsing Biden. Candidates who were younger and healthier. It's disturbing. Tulsi has been smeared a lot. It's disturbing to me how she's been smeared. It's disturbing to me how the fact that she had the temerity to speak to foreign leaders in Syria and India and not denounce them. Hello. She's a sitting member of Congress in the Foreign Affairs Committee. It's part of her job to gather information. It's part of her job to try to hear all sides of the story. And that she doesn't want to denounce them? Since when is it good to denounce foreign leaders? If you're a member of the Foreign Relations Committee of the House, and even more so if you're a candidate for president. That's not good diplomacy. You're going to have to negotiate with those people. You shouldn't start out by insulting them and denouncing them. And the temerity of the press in thinking that they should be able to, oh my hair, of course, I'm spitting while I'm talking. Not very elegant. That they should be able to force the emotionally inflammatory language of yellow journalism into her mouth. And that if she fails to, there's something wrong with her. No. There's something wrong with the idea that the press get to force language into a candidate's mouth. And then this Russia business. When you get Hillary Clinton, and I voted for Hillary Clinton, you get her making this weasel-worded statement that gave her lots of deniability, but clearly implying that Tulsi was somehow supported by the Russians, when that's a complete statistical distortion. And then I find an independent blogger online tracing these distortions to people in Alabama who were circulating disinformation during the election there on behalf of the Democratic Party. And I start wondering, maybe Tulsi's right. Maybe Hillary is promulgating disinformation about her out of revenge, because Tulsi supported Bernie in 2016. The idea that a young woman who twice went into active duty in Iraq for her country should be branded a traitor by people who had no such courage is to me appalling. Now, I've been supporting Tulsi for a long time. I first fell for her in 2016 when she did leave the DNC to support Bernie. I saw an interview of her on CNN. And she was so newly out of active duty that she still spoke with a military accent. But she was saying what I have always believed, that the true problem with our government is bloated military spending. That's the source of the deficit. And our misguided and evil attempts to govern the internal affairs of other countries that we don't understand. what she calls regime change wars. Although there was more than that. There was also the action of the CIA in creating the government of the Shah in Iran and overthrowing an 84-year-old constitutional democracy in Chile to institute a dictatorship by Pinochet, who disappeared thousands of innocent people. I mean, I probably will go on too long for a YouTube video. Let me pause and see how long I've spoken. Well, it was only 5 minutes, so now I can really get into this. My lifetime. Watching the Vietnam War as a young person. Watching millions of innocent people there die because of our evil desire to prevent them from having an election, because we feared that a communist would be elected. Then, are supporting rebels in Afghanistan who told journalists at the time that their reason for fighting Russia was that they didn't want girls to go to school. And the Russians wanted to send girls to school. That was in Time magazine back in 1980 or so. I remember reading it. And that didn't deter us from supporting those right-wing religious bigots who, it turned out, included Osama bin Laden. We were fighting on the wrong side in Afghanistan. And then, in the first Iraq War, we took the side of Kuwait, a country that was more oppressive of women, against Iraq, a country that was less oppressive of women. And then between the two Iraq wars, we had a boycott that caused the deaths of 500,000 children. And then there was the second Iraq War, the one that Tulsi served in, that was based on a lie. Lies about weapons of mass destruction. And then people wonder why she's skeptical of the claims about chemical weapons in Syria. Do people forget that she was sent into active duty based on a lie? And we overthrew a stable government and instituted a state of violent anarchy, which is still not completely resolved. And we did the same thing in Libya. We overthrew a stable government and instituted a state of violent anarchy. And now in Syria, these alleged chemical weapons attacks killed a few hundred people. In the meantime, we've escalated a war which has killed thousands of people and forced millions of people into refugee status who we will not take in this country. The right to peace is the most important civil right. And even government sources now admit that most of the rebels fighting in Syria are right-wing religious bigots. The secular ones are mostly gone. So once again, we're fighting a so-called dictator who is a fairly secular person who supports more rights for women against a bunch of right-wing religious bigots who want to oppress women. Is it any wonder that Tulsi doesn't want to condemn him? Sure, he's not great, but he's better than they are. And why are we always on the wrong side? This idea that this woman, who twice put her life on the line for this country, is being branded a traitor because the Democratic machine doesn't like her. Because she threatened what Eisenhower called the Iron Triangle. Now, while I was reviewing this video prior to posting, I realized that I had made a mistake in how I described the Iron Triangle. So I actually got an image and I put it here so that you can see what the Iron Triangle really is. She threatens the Iron Triangle, and she is more threatening to the government than any candidate. But I only spoke for 4 minutes, so I can still go. I think I get 15 minutes on YouTube. And people condemn her vote in the House because she wasn't a sheep, because she didn't go along with the crowd. Do you remember that Bernie Sanders was the sole vote against the Iraq War? And he was then thought of as a traitor and is now thought of as a hero. It's not such a bad thing to not go along with the crowd. I had hoped that her leadership, because she is a leader and not a sheep, would inspire some Republican senators to vote present as she did. And the censure resolution that she proposed might have been a good compromise. But no, because she's different, because she dissents, the machine won't have her. She's roundly pilloried. And what are we left with? 3 men, all over 70. 2 showing signs of dementia, and 1 who recently had a heart attack. How is that better? I think she's the only honest candidate in the race, the only one who has not compromised with the political machine. And so I do support her. Well, it was only 12 minutes, so I can just add a little more, which is about the way the DNC has more than once changed the rules for qualification for the debates so that Tulsi isn't qualified. And I really think that shows how threatened the Iron Triangle is by what she has to say. They are able to minimize discussion of what's going on abroad and what's going on in our bloated military budget by keeping her out.